Have you ever felt like you're just drowning in numbers and readings and stats? I mean, from picking a new phone to just trying to understand the news, data is absolutely everywhere. So in this explainer, we're going to turn all that confusion into clarity. I'll show you how to make some really confident decisions just by understanding the story the data is trying to tell you.
Okay, let's just dive right in with a situation we have all been in. You're shopping online, right? You need something simple, but all of a sudden you're staring at dozens of options, hundreds of reviews, all these different star ratings. It gets overwhelming fast. That feeling? That's exactly what we're going to tackle today. So take a look at this. You're trying to beat the summer heat, you need a portable fan. You find two that look exactly the same. But wait, one has 1,800 five-star ratings, the other one has 2,000. But the second one also has a few more negative reviews. So, which one is actually the better buy? And that, right there, is the core problem. All this raw information, it can lead to what they call choice paralysis. You just freeze up. So how do you cut through all that noise and actually use these numbers to pick the clear winner? Well, that's the question we're here to answer. The solution, it's all about learning to speak data's secret language. And the key to doing that is visualization. By turning these long lists of numbers into a simple picture, we can translate them into knowledge we can actually use. And that makes our decision, fast and super clear. So let's start with the absolute basics. What even is data? Well, to put it simply, it's just a single piece of information. Think of it like a raw ingredient in a recipe. The fan's price, the number of five-star reviews, the battery life, each one of those is one piece of data. Now, here's a useful tip. Not all data is created equal. You've got primary data, which is stuff you collect yourself, like if you did a survey. And then there's secondary data, which someone else already collected. So in our fan example, those customer reviews, that's actually a form of primary data that the shopping website gathered directly from its own users. Okay, so once you have your data, you need to tell its story. But to do that, you've got to have the right tool for the job. Choosing the right kind of graph is absolutely crucial for making the data's message pop, making it clear and easy to understand. Let's look at an example to see how this really works. All right, to see this in action, we're going to use a classic example, a survey of over 1,000 students talking about their favorite pizza toppings. We're going to take this one simple data set and see how totally different graphs can highlight different parts of the very same story. First up, the good old bar chart. What's so great about this chart is how you can instantly compare everything. I mean, with just one glance, you see pepperoni is the clear winner and tomato, well, tomato is the least popular. If your story is all about competition, about a clear ranking with a winner and a loser, the bar graph is your go-to. Now, let's look at the exact same data, but in a pie chart. See how this feels different? This view isn't about ranking, it's about proportion. You can immediately see that pepperoni is almost 30% of all the votes. Pie charts are fantastic when your story is about understanding how each piece contributes to the whole thing. It's less about who won and way more about each topping's share of the pie. And then we have this, a much more creative approach, the pictograph. Here, each little icon, in this case a slice of pizza, stands for a certain number of students. This is what you use when you want to make data feel friendly, less intimidating. The goal here isn't getting the precision down to the last vote. It's all about that immediate, engaging visual impact. Feeling inspired to make your own? It's actually way easier than you might think. There are really just 5 basic steps. First, pick the right graph for the story you want to tell. Next, you label your axes so everyone knows what they're looking at. Third, draw your bars or lines or slices. Fourth, label those parts. And finally, give it a clear, descriptive title. That's it. You're done. Okay, so making a graph is one thing, but the real power, the real magic comes from reading it. It's about looking past the shapes and the colors to find the patterns, the trends, the story that's hiding inside the data. Now that we know the tools, let's practice reading the patterns. We'll use a brand new set of data showing the sleep habits of some students. We're not looking at pizza anymore, but the principles for reading the chart, they're exactly the same. So I want you to just take a second and really look at this chart. What does it tell you? What's the very first thing that jumps out at you about how these students are sleeping? Go on, pause and think about it for a moment. So, did you spot it? The biggest story here is that huge chunk, 40% of students, are getting just 6 to 7 hours of sleep. That's the single largest group by a long shot. We can also see that the vast majority of them fall into that 6 to 8 hour range, and getting more than 9 hours? Yeah, that's pretty rare. See, we just found the story. And that brings us to the golden rule, the most important takeaway. The entire point of making a graph is to achieve clarity. If a graph is confusing or worse, misleading, it has failed its one and only job. The goal is always, always to make complex information simple and easy to understand. So, let's bring this all back home. This isn't just some abstract skill for a math class. This is a practical, everyday superpower that you can use, well, every single day, from those little shopping decisions we started with to much, much bigger choices. Seriously, understanding how to read data makes you a smarter consumer who can see right past the marketing hype. It makes you a more informed citizen who can critically look at news and statistics. And really, at the end of the day, it just makes you a clearer, more logical thinker in all areas of your life. So the next time you're faced with a screen full of numbers or a chart in an article, don't feel overwhelmed. Instead, I want you to get curious. Lean in, look for the patterns, and just ask yourself this one simple question. What story is this data waiting to tell me?